The population of the African continent will increase from 1 billion inhabitants in 2010 to 1,600,000,000 in 2030, then 3 billion in 2065, of which 531 million youth, making up 30.2% of the population. This is an opportunity for the youth to capture the demographic dividend and enable Africa to enter an era of prosperity.
Demographic dividend is a window of opportunity open to us as a developing country to harness the potential of young people like me. Because if you look at the whole of all over the world, young people constitute the majority percentage of the population. So demographic dividend has given us an opportunity for young people to actively participate in the developmental project in their respective communities and country. Since the window open, we have to utilize it and use and harness the demographic. That is the benefit of our population, the benefit of the energy, the energy and the initiative of young people that can be put to develop our respective community. The UNFPA regional office and UNFPA in Nigeria since 2015 has started a movement of putting young people first, which make us as partners in the developmental process so that we can contribute in the development agenda as well as implementation of the development agenda for the realization of demographic dividend as well as achievement of sustainable development goal in our respective countries.
Quand on parle de dividende démographique, on doit rechercher précisément la capture.
When you talk about demographic dividend, you need to look at capturing the dividend, which is what will give the demographic bonus. What does it mean? It means if the youth are able to work, they will make up a strong economic mass, and the amount of people who are dependent will be reduced, and if that happens, then we will be able to achieve what we call development. In view of the current situation of the African continent, we see that many countries are considered to be developing countries and are promoting development. I think that through the demographic dividend, the youth who is in Cameroon make up 64% of the population are a force that need to be capitalized. How do we capitalize this force? By using the youth, by favoring employment, entrepreneurship, good governance, and above all by promoting the health of the youth and their education. Because it is through these two pillars, health and education, that we'll be able to capture the dividend.
On the continent, youth are now engaged in a partnership with the United Nations Population Fund to address pressing issues such as reproductive health and women's rights in particular, issues for which the international community still has a long way to go. Indeed, 1994 in Cairo, at the ICPD, the International Conference on Population and Development, 179 governments agreed on an ambitious program of action and called for reproductive health and women's rights to be a priority in national and international development efforts. In November 2019, in Kenya, the world celebrated the 25th anniversary of the ICPD. On that occasion, the youth of the African continent reaffirmed their commitment to support all initiatives that concern them.
A participação da juventude no dividendo demográfico.
The participation of the youth in the capturing of the demographic dividend calls for the commitment of the youth associations and also the participation of the youth themselves. The participation of the youth starts when they are given the opportunity to be included in the governmental decision-making instances when policies are defined in relation to the demographic dividend.
Quando traça políticas sobre o dividendo demográfico. Então eu acredito que sim, a juventude
So I think that the youth is the driving force and that it has all the means to work on achieving the sustainable development goals. The demographic dividend is a global issue that calls for the involvement of all the youth, of all the sectors, both public and private, so that there may be more involvement of the youth in the socio-economic development of the country.
O próprio comprometimento da juventude, do jovem, face ao desenvolvimento socioeconômico do país.
To judge by the Asian experience, it is estimated that the demographic dividend could generate exceptional economic growth in Africa at about $500 billion per year for at least 30 years. Such an opportunity calls for a transformation of the population structure, the empowerment of women, and improvements in health and education. As young people, we commit to support the government in relation to girls' schooling, in particular, in the sub-Saharan countries. In these sub-Saharan countries, girls have no access to school because they are not privileged in the same way as boys are privileged. And we are committed to have the girls attend school and also that they remain in school until they reach at least 18. Right now, girls' schooling is not really the main problem. It's the girls' retention in school that is the problem. We have noticed that there are indeed girls that start attending school, but we note that they are not able to complete their school cycle for a number of reasons. There is gender-based violence, there is child marriage, female genital mutilation, rape and sexual harassment at school. In order for youth to fully participate, we need to focus on these practices. The question is, how do we eliminate these practices in society so that girls may be in a safe environment and continue their studies? So at the moment, youth are carrying out sensitizing work, which include education group discussions and interactive shows that promote a change of behavior. So they are not only informing girls on their rights, enabling them to have information that will help them avoid cases of violence, because indeed they are the first ones capable of protecting themselves of these cases of violence. We are also going and speaking with the parents. They are the guardians of these girls and need to be involved in the fight against this type of violence. Despite recent strong economic growth, several Sahelian countries, for example, have not experienced a proportional increase in per capita income or significant progress in promoting gender equality. The level of fertility remains the highest in the world, and the pace of the demographic transition in the region has been slow. There is every reason to believe that the empowerment of women and youth is the main catalyst for triggering a demographic dividend that would greatly benefit the countries in the Sahel.
Nous disons depuis longtemps que nous voulons avoir les jeunes sur.
For a long time now, we have been saying that we want the youth to be at the table. Now, it's not about a will, it's about taking action. Each one of us in our institutions, in all the activities that we carry out every day, we need to make sure that the youth are with us. This is why in Bamako 3 years ago, in parallel to the France-Africa Summit, I made a call with the famous concept, not a step without the youth. And this is not just a concept. I would like today to invite everyone to put it into practice, to take concrete measures and carry out actions that show that we are serious when we say that we are putting the youth at the forefront.
Lorsque nous parlons un peu de mettre les jeunes devant.
In any case, this is the ambition of the SWEDD program, the Sahel Women Empowerment and Demographic Dividend Project. This project is being implemented in 7 countries: Benin, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, and Côte d'Ivoire. They all face the same problems: high fertility and mortality rates, the persistence of early marriage, and difficulties for women to access the labor market. Since its launch in 2015, the SWEDD project has made great progress. And in the aftermath of the ICPD, the actors are unanimous. The achievements must now be scaled up.
Le projet SWEDD est une réponse.
The SWEDD project is a response to the call made out by the President of the Republic of Niger, Mahamadou Issoufou, to resolve the socio-demographic problems that our countries are faced with. So at this stage, we have results from the implementation of this project. We have more than 150,000 women who have been registered in the safe spaces. In these safe spaces, through various modules, they have been taught about reproductive health. And now, in view of the positive results, We are in the process of scaling up all the experiences that we have achieved in the country.
C'est à l'échelle toutes ces expériences que nous avons tentées dans nos pays.
Il n'y a finalement pas, avec ce projet,
With this project, we see that there aren't any jobs that are exclusively for men because in Chad, thanks to this project, women are driving heavy vehicles such as the tractors and are also repairing them, all this in view of the promoting farming activities. And some farming activities that used to be exclusively practiced by men here in Africa now experience the new arrival of women. They used to practice it before, but it was to the benefit of men. Today, they are part of associations and are fully involved in these activities to their own advantage, thus getting empowered.
de s'impliquer dans ces activités à leur profit, donc de s'autonomiser.
Indeed, from 2015 to 2018, the number of midwives and nurses in the SWEDD countries leaped from 31,043 to 35,775, while the number of women using modern contraception reached 4,300,000. The Sahel Women Empowerment and Demographic Dividend Project has also been able to secure the commitment of religious leaders and traditional communicators on issues such as gender-based violence and other harmful practices, such as female genital mutilation.
Way to reach the goals is yet to be described, in the sense that, in my view, the involvement of religious leaders are still not to the level expected. Simply because if you look at these presentations here, mention certain countries that are having or female genital mutilation is prevailing very well. That is Indonesia and some countries in Africa and Asia. They are all predominantly Muslim countries, where you need to engage the religious people, especially Islam, more and more, and invest heavily on them and the subject to be eradicated completely, because it's not Islamic, but some Muslims see it as a religious tradition, and which is not. To clarify that, it's not an easy thing, because it's a deeply rooted culture. It has been with humanity many years ago.
What can we contribute in the new Africa, apart from pursuing positive values? The next thing is, there are certain values that we know there's evidence that they are not helping us. And they have to largely to do with women. And women constitute about 50% of the workforce. If you remove women, then really we're not working on our best to get as far as we can. Certain values about women have to be preserved. Their chastity, their respect and so on, so dignity. And these all give them back their rights. Don't trample on them. Christianity, Islam talk about rights of women. Give them the basic rights they ask you to do. And you find that things will move forward. So this organization will look at positive values in African society, look at negative values, downplay negative values, work against them, try within the community to change those values. For example, female genital mutilation and obstetric fistula. There is no place for it in development at all.
In a region marked by the highest fertility rates in the world, with around 6 children per woman in Niger, and with a prevalence of early marriage affecting 76% of girls under 18 in Niger and 67% in Chad, further efforts are needed to achieve the targets set in 1994 in Cairo, which were renewed in 2019 in Nairobi.
Nous sommes fiers vraiment de venir pour dire ce que nous sommes en train de faire.
We are proud to come here and talk about what we are doing, especially to talk about what we have achieved in relation to the protection of women and in relation to the protection of children. Earlier, we heard about the SWEDD project, where the protection of women and children is the main involvement. And with all the projects and programs that are here, you see that women and children have their place in these projects. In the Ministry for the Promotion of Women, we are carrying out an activity called the Adolescent Initiative Elimine. And it's a space where we can share everything. We gather girls in discussion groups, and we teach them self-esteem. We teach literacy and we empower them. We include reproductive health in these discussions, and menstrual hygiene is considered as well. And they are really well assisted in view of their personal fulfillment. Funded by the World Bank at 273 billion francs CFA, and led by the UNFPA's West and Central Africa office and the West African Health Organization, the SWEDD has been such a success that it has been extended until 2023. From now on, the African Union's wish is to implement the program throughout the continent.
I hope and I pray that our other partners who want to support Africa, who say that we need to accelerate, who say that we need to amplify our actions, that they may get together behind conclusive initiatives such as at the SWEDD project. These are projects that stem from the country's will, for which the countries even go and borrow money from the World Bank to move forward the question of the demographic dividend. I think it is an invitation for all those aspiring to the cause to meet around the SWEDD and similar initiatives to amplify, continue and accelerate the efforts.
Je pense au regard du bilan positif du SWEDD dans les autres pays du Sahel, le Cameroun s'est engagé à réintégrer l'initiative et a déjà pris part à beaucoup de rencontres. Et nous nous réjouissons que la direction régionale de l'UNFPA ait déjà mené les plaidoyers nécessaires pour que le Cameroun réintègre l'initiative. Il venait de l'annoncer, donc je pense que avec les jeunes qui sont déjà assez bien mobilisés, avec également le gouvernement qui a la ferme volonté de réintégrer l'initiative, je pense que nous allons s'inspirant des bonnes pratiques que nous avons également apprises au niveau des outils développés dans d'autres pays. Je pense que l'expérience sera également un succès au Cameroun.
Women have the potential to be actors of development. However, they must be in good health to take full advantage of the development. Obstetric fistulas, one of the most serious childbirth-related complications, is still a major public health problem worldwide, particularly in developing countries. In Africa, Nigeria accounts for more than half of the prevalence of incidents of obstetric fistulas.
I think it is a very sad situation. I'm looking at it beyond the victim. I'm looking at facilities that are not in place to give treatment to those who are down, and the energy that is not dissipated on prevention. Let's look, only 2 weeks back, there was a mission in one of the states in Nigeria. 200 women came out. They had a bed, they were in a hospital, but the hospital could only offer 35 beds. So you can imagine on a mission, you can imagine there's a backlog of women who maybe, if the intervention is quick enough, they are operable. And so even if they're not operable, there's something they can do with their lives. Now, there's that backlog that to think of. So I think that we should wake up to this situation and do something. I want to call fistula an emergency situation.
One of the commitments made by the international community in Nairobi at the ICPD is to achieve the target of zero fistula in Nigeria and in West Africa in general in the coming years.
And like we've heard from the panelists here, it is a multi-sectoral intervention. It is not just about health. It is not just about repairing them. It's about not allowing it to happen in the first place. It is about ensuring that our girls are allowed to stay in school until they are matured enough to have babies. It is about social change for women, for men, for our boys. Our boys to recognize the fact that if you're married, my sister, young sister of, she might end up as a fistula victim. So it's a collective responsibility. So this is a wake-up call that we have an emergency that needs attention. Women, it has poverty in it. It has so many things in it, but women are victims. And so outside the fact that we have all this intervention from the foreign donors and development partners, we as a continent, Africa, we as a people must hold each other's hands and say no to fistula.
I'm hoping that the perspective that we bring with us from Nairobi is that we will understand that this is a hidden condition many women live with. We saw today that we're not just talking about thousands, we're talking about tens of thousands, we're talking about millions of women all over the world who live with fistula. And the challenge they have is that they are hidden in the communities they're in. So when we talk about marginalizing women, these are the most marginalized. They're invisible in a society, and we are forgetting that everyone has an inherent right to human dignity. So I hope that the perspective we bring on, the momentum we are creating right now, is that the world will see that this is a priority. It's a health priority, but it's also a social and economic development priority. And if we do not address it, we will struggle to achieve the SDGs, because we will leave these women behind if we do not address it.
We can say that the OASS has already given their contribution. Now we need to follow up on it. Because the OASS at the meeting for Ministries of Health in Banjul made a resolution in regards to the fight against obstetric fistulas. Now it's about putting this resolution into practice in the countries, and the OASS will be in charge of the monitoring. You know that the OASS is the reference health organization in the ECOWAS area. After the ICPD, we prefer to talk about our ECOWAS zone. That is what interests us above all. We count on the contribution of everyone because, you know, following the ICPD, we have the SDGs that need to be achieved. And the SDGs concern the well-being of the individual. And when we talk about the well-being of the individual, we talk about the dignity and the respect of each one of us. So, we will be able to put an end to obstetric fistulas only after we put an end to early marriages. And when the health services will be capable of receiving all the women who come in time for treatment, because that is the main cause of obstetric fistulas. In Cairo, the international community made new commitments in Nairobi. It must finalize the ICPD roadmap. This would open up a new area for women around the world, especially those on the African continent, who are the most exposed to gender-based violence, early marriage and pregnancy, and other harmful practices. The Nairobi Statement, a transformative agenda-setting framework, captures the commitment made this week. I am pleased to announce that UNFPA will create a new high-level commission to drive this agenda and our commitments forward. We will draw from a full spectrum of stakeholders, governments, private sectors, young people, activists, civil society, philanthropy, among others. The Commission will propose ways to monitor progress on the commitments made here this week.
As President Kenyatta said here on Tuesday, we shall accelerate progress in our commitments by packaging priority actions and programs that guarantee concrete outcomes. Secondary and tertiary education, more rapid reduction in maternal deaths, the total elimination of FGM and child marriages, and the acceleration of equal participation by women in all spheres of social, political, and economic endeavor will take priority in our policy, in our legislation, and in our budget.
Minds are now turned to the future, in particular on how to materialize in the coming years the commitments made in Nairobi. This will not only involve political will, but it will also call for significant financial resources to be mobilized. In this regard, the United Kingdom has pledged $546 million in support of the UNFPA for the 2019-2024 period. The European Commission has launched a new call for proposals on sexual and reproductive health worth 29 million euros. Germany, for its part, has committed an additional 20 million euros to implement the ICPD programme of action.